Glenda Testone, Sanera Charles Pierre, Andy Cohen, and please welcome Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Hello. I love seeing all of you. Love seeing the kids. Hi. Hello and welcome to the LGBT Center. Good afternoon, everyone. We are so excited to see the community rallying together to pass two pieces of critical legislation this session. So thank you all for being here today. Now, before I begin, I want to recognize some people who have been working very hard, some folks that are here with us today to speak. You will hear from TV host and executive producer Andy Cohen. You will hear from my new friend, the very impressive Sanera Charles Pierre, who is the VP of Corporate Communications at TD Bank. We have with us today New York State Senator Brad Hoylman and his daughter. Hi. We have Alfonso David, who, as you all know, is the counselor to the governor, friend of the gays. Michael Sabatino, Yonkers City Council Majority Leader. Dolores Nettles, thank you so much for being here. This is the mother of Islam Nettles. We have Reverend Stan Sloan from the Family Equality Council. Thank you so much, Reverend Stan, for all your hard work leading on this. We have Kristen Prada Browdy, who is the president of the LGBTQ Bar Association. We have Ron Poole-Diane from Men Having Babies. Tanya Walker, my personal favorite, from NYTAG. Let's hear it for NYTAG. Matthew Shirka from Born Perfect. Are you here, Matthew? Thank you for being here. And we have this is a crowd favorite, we have former New York State Senator Tom Duane. I know I did not call out every person that I can even see that I know. I want you to know in this room there are a lot of friends and family that have been working really hard to get us to the point that we are today. So thank you all for your work. Specifically at the center, we have really been working with, over the last 6 months, a lot of organizations that are dedicated to passing this bill, many of them who are outside of New York City, so they weren't able to be here today. They're part of the Rise Out Coalition. We've got the Pride Center from Western New York and Buffalo, the Hudson Valley LGBT Community Center, Pride for Youth in Long Island, Trans Latinx in Manhattan, and the Modern Families Coalition. And this robust and diverse list has been working really hard to elevate these two bills and to get them where they are today. This is the Gay and Trans Panic Defense Ban and the Child Parent Security Act. Now, I know I don't need to say this in this room, but we couldn't do this alone. Our community has made great progress over the past 8 years. And in part, it's because we have an incredible partner in Albany, and that partner is Governor Andrew Cuomo. Under his leadership, we passed marriage equality and gender and made conversion therapy a thing of the past. Last week, for the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising, the governor flew the pride flag over the Capitol for the first time in history. This is our governor. And although we've accomplished a lot, we know that the governor is a true friend to this community because he understands that we still have more to do. So today, we are here with him and with Andy Cohen to call on the legislature to end the state's ban on gestational surrogacy and to outlaw the unconstitutional gay and trans panic defense, two issues that are at their heart about dignity, fairness, and respect. I am in the process, many of you know, of adopting a child. That process is complicated and emotional, and I'm glad that it's not made any harder by unnecessary regulations. I know that Andy and Sanera will talk about their experiences with surrogacy, so I want to take a minute to talk about the so-called gay trans panic defense. Dolores Nettles, who is here with us today, lost her daughter, Islan, after she was brutally attacked walking down the street. She was attacked for one reason: because she was transgender. And as unimaginable as that loss must have been, it was amplified further when Islan's murderer received 12 years in prison, a lesser sentence, by suggesting that he could not help but attack her because she was trans. He was able to successfully and legally employ a bias-based defense called the gay trans panic defense, which essentially says you can violently attack a member of our LGBTQ community simply for being who they are. This is a disgusting practice that allows bigoted people to justify despicable crimes. And it's unacceptable. It must be repealed. Governor Cuomo has been fighting tirelessly on both of these pieces of legislation, and it's time for the legislature to follow his lead. And with that, it is my honor and my privilege to introduce our governor. We should all be proud to be New Yorkers today. I'm proud to call him a friend, Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. It is my pleasure to be back at the center. We have had so many great celebrations here. We've also had a lot of painful days here. But this, in many ways, the name the center is appropriate because it has been the center of so many activities that we have taken place, so many good days and so many bad days. And this is the beginning of what is going to be another great success. If we do what we have to do, we will be back here in 2 weeks saying we resolved these last two matters, surrogacy and gay trans panic. We couldn't do it without the people in this room. We couldn't do it without Glenda Testone. What a great leader. She is always there for us. We have Senator Brad Hoylman, who's been a great champion in the Senate. We have my counsel, Alfonso David, who's been at the forefront of all these issues. We have so many great and effective advocates, all of whom are here today. He was pointed out, but someone I want to point out again, my father loved him because it's hard to go first. It's hard to be the pioneer. It's hard to go down a path that no one has gone down before, and that was Senator Tom Duane. Senator Tom Duane. It's a pleasure to be with Sanera Charles Pierre. Let's give her a round of applause. And Andy Cohen. I watch Andy Cohen on TV, and I think we sort of have the same job. I see him moderating these discussions, and people are on both sides, and people are yelling at each other. They're threatening physical violence. Some are crying. Some are really obnoxious. Some are really nice. And he's moderating that debate, and it reminds me of me in the legislature. The only difference is Andy gets paid a lot more for what he does, and it's over at the end of the hour. But he has been, not just is he a superstar in what he does, to take that power and that celebrity and that stardom and use it to do something good speaks to who he is. Andy Cohen, let's give him a round of applause. Now, New York State, I was with my daughters and my daughter's friends. My daughters are 21 and 24, and they had all their friends over. 21, 24, you know, those are dangerous ages. Because you know all the answers, you just don't know all the questions when you're 21 and 24. They have a sense of history. They can go all the way back to the Obama administration when they talk. And I like to provoke them, just to make them think. It's one of the reasons my daughters don't bring them over that often, they say. And I said to them, New York State is the center of what? Is the leader of what? And they came up with all sorts of answers. It's the media capital. It's the cultural capital. It's the arts capital. It's the tech capital. All these great leadership positions. But I didn't get the answer I was looking for, which is more important than any of the other issues. New York State, with your help, has become the center for equality and human rights for all Americans and all New Yorkers. And that fulfills our legacy, because New York was always ahead of the times. Workers' rights movement started here. Women's rights movement started here. Civil rights movement started here. NAACP was founded here. Stonewall happened here. World Pride agenda, we are going to lead the way. Now, as Glenda said, there are two issues that we have to get done. And time is very short. There's only 7 legislative days left. 7 legislative days left, 2 very important issues. The first one is surrogacy. Now, surrogacy is an extension of everything we have done. One of the proudest moments of my life was when I stood with the people in this room and we could stand up and say we passed marriage equality, which changed the dialogue in the nation. The extension of marriage equality is the ability to have a family. That is the natural extension of marriage equality. If you're an infertile couple or an LGBTQ couple, you need assistance in having a child. It is that simple. If you're a female couple, you need a male donor. If you are a male couple, you need a gestational surrogate. That is the fact. Now, 47 states in the United States of America have gestational surrogacy, where a woman can act as a gestational surrogate for a couple. 47 states. 47. We're supposed to be the leading state. We don't have it in New York, which means what? Which means you have to leave New York, go to another state, deal with another state's laws, travel back and forth. It's much more expensive. It's harder to do. You want to be part of the process. The distance is a problem. How can it be legal in 47 states and not legal in the state of New York? Give me a possible rationale. Well, the possible rationale is maybe the woman is being taken advantage of. All right, two things. Number one, we will pass a law that has more protections for women's rights through the process. A lawyer, a health counselor, Department of Health will regulate it. More protection than any of the other states. So if you actually care about a woman's protection, then you would want to pass the law in the state of New York, because we give women more protection than any state in America. The second point, which to me still is totally hypocritical. Well, we don't think women should have the right to consent to be a gestational surrogate. On what theory? On what theory? We just spent months leading the nation in codifying Roe v. Wade because we're afraid Washington is going to end it. And what is the argument in Roe v. Wade? It's a woman's body, it's a woman's choice. That a woman is equal to a man in every manner, shape, or form, and she can make a decision for herself. Well, under gestational surrogacy, if the woman has an attorney and a counselor and the Department of Health is regulating, why wouldn't you let the woman make a decision for herself? Why should you have government come in and say, I don't think you're capable of making this decision? It is hypocritical, and in my opinion, it is void of the equality for women that we just argued and we just stand for, and it has no place in the state of New York. It has to end, and it has to end now. Now, gay and trans panic defense. It is so outrageous that I took my group of my daughters and their friends, and I asked them a second question. What do you think of this gay and trans panic defense? And I explained what it is. They said, oh, that can't exist. That's not true. I said, I'm the governor of the state of New York. I was the former attorney general. And you're telling me that it's not? I'm telling you it's true. I'm standing here telling you it is a fact. Oh, no, it's not a fact. You're wrong. No. Really, I'm not wrong. I'm wrong many times, but on that one particular, I am not wrong. But it is that outrageous. What it says is that it's legal in the state of New York in a criminal case, in a capital matter, an assault, a murder, to have as a defense, well, I just found out the person was gay or trans, and I was so emotionally disturbed that I was not responsible for my actions. That is a defense. You know what that is? That is the codification of homophobia. That's what that is. It is the institutionalization of homophobia. Apply it to anyone else. Well, when I found out he was from Italian-American descent, I was so disturbed. When I found out he was Catholic, I was so disturbed that I was out of my mind. And when I found out she was Jewish, I was so disturbed, I was out of my mind. It is ridiculous. It is repugnant and repulsive to everything we believe, but it's the law in the state of New York, and it has to end, and it has to end now in these next 7 days. Now, we have 7 days. I was just speaking inside to Sanera and Andy and Glenda, and I said 7 days goes very fast. It goes very fast, 7 days. And that's all we have left for the legislature. We have to make our voices heard loud and clear. And it's a very simple message. We're talking to legislators primarily from Manhattan. These are not legislators from upstate rural counties who are against this. Our issue is convincing the legislators from Manhattan. And I would say to them with one voice, you have 7 days to fix both these laws. They are discriminatory. They are repugnant to the concept of equality. They are anti-LGBTQ. And everybody wants to call themselves a progressive. You know what my father used to say? You can't be a progressive if you don't make progress. So if you don't get these laws passed, don't come home and tell us you're a progressive. And my last point is this, my friends. We are the nation's leader, if not the international leader, when it comes to equality. What we have done with the LGBTQ community, nobody else has done. And we really did start a movement that went across the country and then went across the world. It really is special, from marriage equality to gender to outlawing conversion therapy, over and over and over again. But being the capital and the champion of equality means you never really get there. It's a journey. And you have to keep raising the bar. And you have to keep knocking down the next barrier to equality. And don't kid yourselves. We still have further to go. Isla Nettles will tell you that. The burning of the LGBTQ pride flag in Harlem the other day will tell you that. The thugs in London last week who beat up the lesbian couple on the train will tell you that. The woman who was killed in Dallas on June 1 because she was trans will tell you that. We have more to do. And we have to do it here in New York, especially at this time. Especially with this federal government that is spreading hate and intolerance everywhere. That is their franchise, to play to differences, to divide and conquer, anti-Muslim, anti-Semitic, anti-immigrant, anti-LGBTQ. What they're trying to say is separate and divide. Hate and intolerance are what they sell. New York, we believe the exact opposite. We say we're not going to look at the differences. We're going to find the commonality. We're going to find the humanity. New York is the diversity capital. And we believe that diversity is a strength. We celebrate it. We don't fear it. We're not going to allow you to divide us. And I'm not going to be afraid of my brother and sister by sexual orientation or race or religion. I am going to embrace them. And when you threaten us, and you try to say that diversity is an enemy and that diversity is a negative, we're going to stand up and recoil, and we're going to say, we reject your hate, we reject your intolerance. We believe the strongest four-letter word is still love, and we're going to stand up in the name of love and community and acceptance and tolerance, and we're going to show this nation the way forward, and that's the best way to start World Pride, with New York once again leading the way. Thank you, and God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Andy Cohen.
Hey, everybody. This is where I vote, funnily enough, right under that disco ball. So it's exciting to be here. I'm so proud to be here with Governor Cuomo. I'm heading to Albany tomorrow. I can't wait to meet your team there. We could not have passed marriage equality without Governor Cuomo. We couldn't have passed gender without him. This is a governor who, when he puts his mind to it, he gets it done. He is proud of New York's legacy as the progressive capital of the nation, and he delivers results. It has been said that raising a child is to forever have your heart go walking around outside your body. And while my journey in parenthood is quite literally in its infancy, it is indeed a magnificent and albeit somewhat terrifying one. Sadly, having a child has not always been an option for everyone. Some couples and individuals who badly want children, who want nothing more than to raise a family, simply cannot conceive. When I came out to my parents in 1988, my mom said two things. First, she said, I probably would have hated your wife anyway. Debatable, probably, I mean, she has a point. Then she said, I need some time to mourn the loss of the family that you will never be able to have. I always wanted a family, but as a gay man, I absolutely never thought that it was in the cards for me. It was beyond the realm. I was in the Midwest. I couldn't believe it that any gay or lesbian or anyone in my community would be having a family. Fortunately, medical technology has evolved in ways that allow new options for those experiencing infertility as well as for LGBTQ people looking to form their own families. Unfortunately, it is shocking to me that New York law has not experienced the same evolution. When I first started researching surrogacy, I was stunned, I was shocked, I was amazed to find out that this was actually illegal in this great progressive state that I live in. How draconian is that? So if a woman went ahead and carried a baby for a gay couple in New York, she would be committing a felony in 2019? It doesn't seem possible to me. The governor said it. New York is only one of 3 states in the nation that criminalizes the practice, forcing New Yorkers who set to work with a surrogate to leave the state. There are greater legal challenges, added stress, less involvement with the pregnancy, and increased costs for surrogates, children, and intended parents. Those were the challenges that I faced when I decided to have a child through surrogacy, which was the only option available for me to have a biological child of my own. I worked with organizations that help you find an egg donor and a surrogate, but because surrogacy is illegal in New York, I went cross-country to California. Imagine, I came to New York from the Midwest so I could be free to live my life, but I had to leave New York to have a child. The experience, it left me in awe of surrogates. My surrogate, she's absolutely incredible. We were partners from the beginning. She viewed this process as the ultimate gift, the ultimate opportunity to give me the ultimate gift. She gave me life. She gave me my son. This is my son. With all of the sacrifices that surrogates make, I kept asking her, how are you going to feel when we're in the delivery room and I'm in the room with you and you're going to hand him over to me? What is that emotionally going to feel like for you? We talked about this a lot. And she said, that's my gift. I cannot wait to see you hold your child. She said, he's your child. And this is the moment that we're here for. And it was a moment that I'll never forget. I will be forever indebted to her for Benjamin. She will always be a part of our family. I also can't imagine the government telling her that she shouldn't be a surrogate. But that's exactly what would happen if she was in New York. Does the government really know better than women what's best for their lives and their bodies? In 2019, no one should have to forfeit the joy of raising a child. Not in an era when modern medicine is performing new miracles every day, and when we've reached a wide consensus that the only prerequisite to forming a family is love. And that is why we have to pass this Child Parent Security Act. I'm so proud to be working with Protecting Modern Families Coalition, led by the Family Equality Council, to get this measure passed into law, practiced safely, ethically, and legally. If we practice this safely, ethically, and legally, surrogacy is about hope. And it's about the freedom to form a family, the very thing that was fought for right here in New York City 50 years ago. From Seneca Falls to Stonewall to more recent laws enshrining marriage equality and reproductive rights, New York has long been a leader when it comes to advancing the interests of women, children, and families. Let's keep this tradition alive by passing the Child Parent Security Act this year. I beg you for us all. Thank you, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sanera Charles Pierre.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Sanera Charles Pierre, and I live in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn, with my husband, Philippe, and our 3-year-old daughter, Pearl Rose. First, I want to say that I'm extremely honored and very thankful to be a part of this event today. I'm also really proud to be a part of this broad and growing coalition that is fighting to protect all modern families, no matter how they're created. Also, I want to thank Governor Cuomo for his steadfast leadership on this issue. We couldn't ask for a better ally as we lead the change for the Child Parent Security Act. This issue is very personal for me. When I first embarked on the journey to become a parent, I did all the things right. You go to college, you meet the man of your dreams or the person of your dreams, and we got married shortly thereafter, and we were like, I love you, let's have a baby. And, and so we thought we were very fortunate, and within months of making that determination, we found out that we were expecting, and we were giddy and excited and nervous and all the things that you feel when you find out that you're expecting. And then unfortunately those feelings turned to devastation when we had a miscarriage a few months after that. But I'm kind of one of those people, pick yourself up, try again, it's okay, it happens to a lot of people. And so we tried again, and we were fortunate enough to get pregnant again fairly soon, and the same thing happened again and again and again and again and again. So over 10 years' time, we had 8 miscarriages. And so finally I said, okay, so maybe I'm not the vehicle by which we're meant to grow our family. And we looked into other options, and the doctors had given me the diagnosis of unexplained infertility, which is very helpful. And so with that, we thought, okay, we'll try something. Let's try something else. And I'd done a little bit of research on surrogacy, not a deep amount, but enough to know that it was a viable option for us. And so my husband needed a little bit more time to think about it. And so we literally froze time with our embryos to give us some more time to think about whether or not this was the right path for us, and also to save up, quite frankly, to do it. And when we were prepared to make that choice, we went back to our clinic here in New York and said, okay, we are ready, and we're going to do gestational carrier. And our doctor's like, oh, yeah, we actually can't treat you for that here in New York. Compensated surrogacy is not legal. And I thought, I'd done some research, but clearly not enough research, because it's legal in Georgia and Texas and Utah and California and Ohio. And I'm just like, I live in New York. I live in New York City. This can't be possible. I was just as shocked and flummoxed as Andy mentioned feeling, and when he discovered that as well. But they said, don't despair. We have a sister clinic. This is not uncommon. We have a lot of families in New York that we refer to this clinic in New Jersey. And so we did that. And I was fortunate enough to find our surrogate, this amazing person in Ohio, and met her and her husband, and we had like a bit of a love match between my husband, her husband, and her, and we just really thought that we'd want to go on this journey together. But it added complexity, trying to navigate the laws of 2 states that you don't live in, and working through New Jersey, working through Ohio, having to sit there and think through all the flight paths out of New York, what cities and states we could fly to in a reasonable amount of time to be there for a birth of a child. And that adding that layer of complexity and decision-making was definitely cumbersome, and it was a barrier that I wasn't expecting to have being a resident of New York. And so I'm really excited that we were able to make it happen. And our surrogate called us a week before our daughter was meant to be born, And I literally was like a sitcom dad when she called, and I was like, I don't know, what do we do? What do we do? And I'm like, I'm crying, and I'm like, what do I do? And my husband's like, what do you think you should do next? And I was like, I don't know. He's like, book a ticket, you know? And I was like, yes, we should book a ticket. And you know, in the meantime, we found a flight, and I remember asking my husband, do you think we can make this 9 o'clock flight? He's like, it's 8:30. Do you think we can make that 9 o'clock flight? And so fortunately, we found a flight that was more reasonable. And in the meantime, our surrogate, who had been asked by her doctor at the time in Ohio if she wanted medication to speed up the contractions and speed up the process, and she said no, because I want to give her parents time to get here. So we hopped on a flight. We got there. And the delivery room allowed us to be in the room when I literally was on one side of our surrogate and her husband was holding her hand, and I was able to watch my daughter be born into this world. And with the advances of science and medicine and the evolution of that, it's time for our laws to evolve as well. There's no reason, right? There's no reason that we're here in 2019 and with the right protections in place that New Yorkers who want to become parents should be denied that right to become parents. I can't imagine my life without my child, my precious Pearl Rose, and I want others to be able to experience that same joy. I want to thank the governor for his leadership. I want to thank Andy for lending a powerful voice. I want to thank Linda as well. Let's all work together to end New York's ban on surrogacy and pass the Child Parent Security Act today.
I want to thank Sanera for that powerful story. I want to thank Andy so much for lending your voice. Obviously, I want to thank our governor, Andrew Cuomo. And I just have one final thing for our audience to hear. There are 7 days left to the legislative session, 7 days. So we have a job. I have a job for all of you and for all of us. On May 30th, we reached over 30,000 constituents by text, encouraging them to call their local legislators to repeal and support the repeal of the gay and trans panic defense. I know you've heard it, but let me say it one more time. We have an epidemic of trans women of color being murdered in this country. This is a drop in the bucket to ending that, but it will help. It will help delegitimize homophobia and transphobia. You heard stories better than I could ever tell about how people should be allowed to start their families in New York, and thankfully we have the Family Equality Council who is leading the charge. They are hosting a lobby day in Albany tomorrow, and they could use all of your support. So if anyone wants to go to that lobby day, Stan is sitting right here. He would love to talk to you. Mark's in the back. Please sign up and go support both of these efforts. We need to allow gestational surrogacy, and we need to ban the gay trans panic defense. Thank you all for being here today. Onward and upward! Woo!